Imagine this. It's early morning before school. It's still dark out, and when you look out your window, there's a thick wall of fog. Your world suddenly shrinks to just a few dozen feet in front of you. No mountains, no distant trees, no landmarks. Just a hazy curtain of white nothingness. We experience the world primarily through sight, and when our view distance is shortened, our world gets smaller along with it. The vast sprawl of land and buildings that we're used to is all gone. You're alone and surrounded by the unknown. When fog rolls in like that, it doesn't just change what you can see, it changes how you experience the world around you. You walk slower, you might listen more. Every sound feels a little closer than it should be. A car passing somewhere far away feels like it's right next to you. Your footsteps echo longer, and your own breathing feels louder. Your world has gotten smaller, and with it, everything has gotten closer. There's an undeniable horror in fog. Things can hide right in front of you, and as long as they're just far enough away, you can't tell what's coming, if anything's coming at all. And we all know the oldest and strongest fear is fear of the unknown. So for me, there's also a strange comfort in fog. A dense fog tends to feel like a big blanket that's wrapped around my world. I can't focus on what's out there because I can't see it. So the world that I have to worry about gets a lot smaller, more manageable. There's a warmth in cold fog that I really love. That feeling of your world shrinking, of getting smaller and more intimate and quieter is really hard to represent in media. And I've noticed a lot of things try to capture it, but for me, most kind of miss the mark, except for one specific era of gaming. And the funny thing is, you didn't capture that feeling on purpose, it captured it because it had to. Early 3D consoles just weren't built for the kinds of worlds that the developers were imagining and that they wanted to make. They had almost no memory by modern standards, so they couldn't keep entire environments loaded like our modern consoles and computers do. They just couldn't afford to draw everything that you might want to see. So the developers had to make choices. They could make the world smaller or flatter, or they could make them look worse, or they could hide what they couldn't render. Fog wasn't just an aesthetic, it was a kind of mercy on older consoles. The fog let the game decide what mattered right now. What's close? We render it. Far away, we'll worry about that when we get there. And because of that, those old game worlds never became overwhelming. The sense of discovery was preserved because I couldn't scope out the entire ruin before I even got to it. I had to be revealed to me before I could even start to wonder about what might be inside. The worlds just never demanded your attention all at once. Games like Fable and Morrowind and Turok, and one of my favorites that I don't hear anyone talk about, Drakon, the Ancient Skates. They weren't horror games, they just felt kind of dreamlike. Like you were moving through a world that existed just beyond your grasp. I think that's why fog became such a defining part of the early 2000s nostalgia aesthetics. It's not just because of how it looked, but because of how it felt. The fog, by making the worlds smaller, made them feel larger because you never knew how much was out there. You never knew where the barriers were. There was always something just a few feet ahead. You knew they were vast, but you only ever experienced them in small, intimate pieces. And that mirrors how a lot of us remember our childhood. Our memories from that time aren't wide, all-encompassing, sweeping panoramas. They're fragments. Like a hallway or the corner of your bedroom, the sound of your school's air vent, or the way the light looked through your window at a specific time of day. You don't remember the entire map, you just remember what was within the draw distance. And those early 3D games, because of their limitations, ended up mimicking that. You weren't seeing the whole world, you were just seeing what was right in front of you. That created something I can really only describe as an existential coziness. For me, Shadow of the Colossus might be the best example of this. That game almost shouldn't exist on the PlayStation 2. The landscapes are so much larger than any of its predecessors or contemporaries, and the creatures that you fight are enormous, and the scale feels totally mythic because of all of that. The fog isn't just hiding performance tricks, it's pacing revelations. The game never overwhelms you with the full truth of its world. It gives you silhouettes and moments and hints of something larger waiting just beyond what you can see. And because of that, everything feels bigger than it actually is. When the game was remade years later, when the fog was lifted and the draw distance was extended, it looked incredible. The remake is so good. But I feel like something changed. There was no more mystery. There was no more, oh, what's just beyond this next step? The restraint was gone. The world was clearer, but it didn't feel the same. The same can be said for Morrowind, which is another game that was really impactful to me. I always felt like every time I rounded a corner, I never knew if there was going to be a Dwemer ruin or another city that I hadn't visited, because I didn't check my map when I was a kid, so I didn't fucking know where anything was. Or, maybe there was a dungeon for me to go through. These discoveries sort of they came at you slowly. Instead of having an entire map already filled out with all of the interesting places marked, you had to fill out your own map. And you never knew what was going to be over the hill because you couldn't see it yet. And I've played Morrowind with a lot of mods, especially ones that remove that draw distance or extend it. And it looks really cool. I love my new gen Morrowind experience, but it definitely doesn't feel as dreamlike as it used to. It really, those old games, it really felt like you were traveling through memories of an experience. And that's why the world was so small. And I've noticed that the same foggy sensibility shows up today in what we like to call liminal nostalgia art, with its empty malls and flickering streetlights and desaturated photos of places that feel real or familiar, even though you've never been there. They're not exactly scary, they just feel remembered. Those images behave like memories almost. They obscure what doesn't matter and they soften details. They let your mind fill in the rest. I think another game that really captured this was old Minecraft, before the Villages update and before on PCs. It was this foggy, endless landscape, and you were totally alone. You were alone in a world that only existed as far as your eyes could reach, or realistically, as far as your computer could render. There's something that's deeply comforting about a world that only asks you to care about what's nearby, about what's reachable. In those foggy games, you didn't have to worry about the entire future. You didn't have to see every problem at once. You just had to get to the next landmark, or the next hill, or the next city. For a lot of us, I think that might have been... For a lot of us, I think that might have given us a sense of safety. What started as a technical limitation, a way to keep your console from melting, became part of the art, and a part of the memory, and a part of how we experienced our childhood. Fog didn't just shape how those games looked, it shaped how they felt. And it might be helping shape how we remember our childhoods. Somewhere out there in the fog, you know that things are going on. You know that the world is still turning. Within the fog, it's quiet. It doesn't ask too much of you. And it just lets you be. I almost forgot to mention that, if you want to comment, like the video, that really helps out. Kind of gives me an idea of what you all enjoy hearing or what you might want to hear next. I'm also working on a book right now. So if you want updates on that, let me know. I can start talking about it a little more. I plan on maybe doing some like Patreon kind of stuff with like, a free tier and all different drops and things. But if that's something that you all think is interesting, let me know. I'll kind of talk about the overall plot and maybe how I write. But other than that, if you're still here, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will watch the next one, or if you haven't, watch the last few that I did. Should keep you busy until I finally decide to upload another one. So, thank you.